Hello, my name is Jacob Shaw, and this is my internship portfolio for my internship with Coyote football at Kansas Wesleyan University. To whoever is watching this, Professor Minnick, thank you for your time. Along with me, I have James Fugahill, who will be also watching this and asking me questions at the end. All right, so a little introduction about myself. Like I said, my name is Jacob Shaw. I'm from Baytown, Texas. I majored in sports management and I got a minor in criminal justice. And I've been a 4-year football player here at Kansas Wesleyan. So the pre-internship process was a little bit different for me. I had something set up with another company that had to do with the manufacturing of hoses and pipes that was used for chemical plants. But that fell through because the CEO of that company resigned. So my second choice was to do something sports related. So as part of the application process for this one, I talked to Coach Myers and he said he had a spot open. And then he just told me to meet with Professor Minnick and talk with Steve Wilson, our athletic director. And so I did that and I was able to secure a spot for the internship process. Uh, for my internship, I was a football assistant and I did spring ball and the daily tasks that came along with doing spring ball. The agency that I did my internship with was Kansas Wesleyan University uh, in their athletic department as part of the football team on their staff. My superiors for this internship were Coach Matt Myers, who is the new head coach of Kansas Wesleyan. Coach Nolan Jones, he's the D-line coach and as well as the strength and conditioning coach at Kansas Wesleyan. And Coach Walker Terrain, who is the running backs coach at Kansas Wesleyan. So for the job description, there's a lot of things that come with doing uh, this internship. It wasn't a routine thing every day. It was always changing. Just some of the things that I did that I'll break down later in the video is laundry, filming, helping with offense, setting up and taking down equipment at practice, helping with recruit visits, the spring game, strength and conditioning, and leading workouts. So for spring ball, this lasted about a month and a half, and we have practice 45 times a week. Starting out for practice, I'd get there about an hour early. Me and Coach Terrain would go onto the field and we would set up the camera towers for the camera equipment. And then I would get told what segments of practice to film. So I'd film usually anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour of practice. And practice usually lasted about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So in between that, I was able to help out with the offensive line and be an extra guy as a scout guy or just be an extra guy to fill in during a drill, which was always nice because that's where I played at. Also during spring ball, after I filmed, we took down the equipment and put it away back in the shed. And then I also had laundry duty every week. I did laundry on Tuesdays, and it took probably 4 to 5 hours to do laundry. It wasn't terrible as it sounds because I was able to do my homework while I waited on the clothes to wash and dry. Spring ball also consisted of the spring game, which was an all-day thing. Um, we got there early that morning and we set up for all the recruits that we were going to have out that day. They all had lanyards and they all had notebooks and they all had tours of the school scheduled. So I was with the coaches that day and we helped get them, the recruits, where they needed to be. And then for the spring game, I also filmed the whole game. And then the week after the spring game, we put away the jerseys and the helmets and the shoulder pads and the rest of the equipment until the normal fall season began. Strength and conditioning was probably my favorite part of this internship. I woke up 4:45, 5 a.m. every morning, and I was at the school by 5:30. We had a 6 a.m. group and a 7 a.m. group, and then a 7:15 a.m. volleyball group. So in the mornings, it was me, Coach Nolan Jones, and my other intern, Nicholas Osmond. And Nicholas was lifting in the 6 a.m. group. So I was running the 6 a.m. group as well as doing the running for the 6 a.m. group. And then me and Nick would run the 7 a.m. group with Nolan. So that was kind of nice because it gave me kind of like a sense of independence. And uh, there were two portions to those groups. So there was a lifting part and then a running part. And like I said, we had a 6 a.m. group, a 7 a.m. group, and then a volleyball group. So there were 6 different segments, usually each morning, that 3 of us had to cover. I also filmed and took a lot of pictures for Nolan Jones's Twitter page. Uh, the coaches here use Twitter as a tool in recruiting, and I was able to help in that aspect by taking videos of workouts, taking pictures of guys lifting. That way, future recruits out there could see how we run our summer programs. Some challenges that I faced in this internship were my biggest one were time management. Like I said, I woke up around 4:45 every morning, and I was at the school probably until 9:30 or so. And then afterwards, I worked all day at the grain elevator. So it was a balance of basically just trying to find some time for myself throughout the day because I was working 2 jobs, and this went on for at least a month. And to circle back on that, getting sleep was also a big challenge because you're working 15, 16 hours throughout the day, and then you're waking up early the next morning. I mean, it's hard to get some quality sleep. Figuring out a power balance as well. I didn't want to come in there and be the one guy that went on a power trip for everybody and had everybody hate me immediately because most of the guys in there, they've been my boys since freshman, sophomore year. So kind of finding out how to deal with them while kind of being in sort of some position of power. That was a challenge for me as well. Lessons learned in this would be time management skills, communication skills, and also how the workup cards are set up. Coach Nolan Jones uses an algorithm where he inputs their 1 to 3 rep maxes for each lift, and then based off of those maxes, it predicts numbers for the other auxiliary lifts that you do in between your main lifts. Then I also learned how important every aspect of the football team is to its success. So down from the janitors, the equipment guys, the laundry guys, the head coach, the recruiting coordinators, athletic, academic coordinator, these are all important aspects of a football team, and they determine the outcome of their success. Post internship, while I like this internship, I'll be pursuing a job in law enforcement, but will keep this knowledge with me until I retire. My plan is to do law enforcement for probably 20 years and get my pension, and then after that, go into high school football coaching. And the lessons that I learned in this internship will then carry on with me there. I'd like to give a special thank you to Steve Wilson for approving this, as well as Professor Minnick, Coach Nolan Jones, strength coordinator, for allowing me to be a part of his summer workouts, Coach James Bauer for allowing me to be part of his offense, Coach Matt Myers for allowing me to be part of the football team, Coach Justin Sullivan for allowing me to help them with equipment and stuff, Coach Mike Hall for allowing me to help out with the offensive line, and Coach Anthony Vargas for allowing me to help out with the huddle and stuff. I truly enjoy being part of the program and learn some very valuable information that cannot get taught inside of a classroom. And James Fugahill, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do have just a couple questions for you involving your internship. One of them being like after like looking back at your responsibilities within the program, can you explain how crucial like your role was within like this internship with the football program was when you were like, helping out with laundry and stuff or like, filming, setting up the field? Like how crucial do you think that is to like a program in itself?
I think it's very crucial because, for one, if you don't have anybody doing laundry, then that gets pinned on another guy who's already got 100 other things to do. So that just gets stacked up, and then other things that are important get put off. And so the guys need clean clothes, so somebody needs to do that. In regards to filming, I think that's super important because most of the ways the guys learn here at Kansas Wesleyan, we learn in the classroom, and we learn based off of previous film from the previous day or the previous week or even the previous year to determine how we play games, call games, or just how we scheme things up. And so I think that's super important. Those guys are.
All right. And another thing I wanted to touch up on was you're mentioning how like when you were trying to, be a guy like a coach who wasn't like, going on a power trip after being like a former player. Can you like go into depth of what type of relationship you had with these players knowing that, you used to be like on the same level as them and how like did they treat you with like a certain level of respect as you were in this new position?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think they did treat me with a level of respect because I gave them respect as well. And like I said, we've been boys for the last 2 to 4 years with all of them. So, I mean, there's already respect there because we already have a friendship of teammates and just being boys. Like, we already have respect for one another. And I think they're mature enough to understand where I was at, and I was mature enough to understand where they were at. Like, I mean, it wasn't of any I'm better than you or you're better than me, or just because you're a former player doesn't mean you have this power status now. Uh, yeah, so I think it was just mainly me just figuring out like where I could go with it and just not trying to tip it over and then cause problems and like the actual friendship that we had, you know?
Gotcha. And just one last question. You were mentioning how you were helping Coach Jones take pictures and stuff for like, the Twitter page for him and for the Coyote football Twitter page. Can you just like explain how big of a tool like social media is for like, recruiting or just marketing?
Yeah, so with recruiting, that's where all the recruits post like their highlight films, and that's how coaches like usually first make contacts with these recruits because they don't have their phone numbers, but they'll have their Twitter handles. So they'll send them a DM on Twitter, and that's usually like their first points of contact. So whenever you do that, you naturally see who messaged you. So you're naturally going to go through their Twitter, say, "Hey, who is this person?" So if they see a bunch of guys working in their media feed, I mean that as a football player, you want to see that. That's somewhere you want to go, somewhere where they're having fun during the summer and also getting better. So I think that's a very crucial part.
All right, and sorry, but I just have just one. This is my real last question. So you're talking about how you had to really be concerned with time management because you also had to go through, your internship like early in the morning, and then as soon as you got done with that, you had to like rush to work at the grain elevator. You said
Hmm.
you had a full-time coaching position. Do you feel like this internship kind of like mimicked or really simulated what like a real life like collegiate football coach goes through when it comes to like doing all these responsibilities on a like short time frame?
I definitely think it mimics like a starting out kind of coach. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have the offensive coordinator filming practices and doing laundry and all that, but I definitely think that it mimics or what a graduate assistant does or what just an assistant football coach does because they're there to assist on jobs. So I do think it mimics it.
All right, thank you. That was all the questions I had for you.
All righty, thank you.